Yeah.
She's a senior accountant in Edison and Company.
Oh, does she just have to move there then? Like, or have to like?
She drives there, but she lives in Morristown with some girls.
Oh,
yeah, she's
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. My company is actually the headquarters. One of our mailboxes in Morristown, so sometimes I have to go there and then pick up the mail for the company. Yeah.
Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. My name is Rachel, and I really have to say that I have been inspired in my health journey by Jesus. And I just want to give thanks to him, even if you don't believe in that, and I want to thank him for the food that we have before us now. Dear God, our Father, thank you so much that you have given us this food and this opportunity to be together and to learn more about health. Thank you for Dr. LaMastro and for bringing him here to talk to us. Please bless us. In Jesus' name, amen. So I just want to tell you a little bit about my own journey before the doctor starts talking, and I have some notes because I don't want to forget something. So Dr. LaMastro has been kind of my health savior the last several years. I have to thank God for bringing me to him. Because really I started my downward spiral with health back when I was like 8 years old. I was diagnosed with scoliosis and it got pretty bad. I had to wear a back brace. And I have to wonder if part of that was nutrition based because we didn't understand organic food or eating lots of vegetables. And my mom would cook the vegetables to death. Because she was learning how to cook at the time. And so that really led into a chronic condition. When I was in college, I got sick and I didn't get better. Like I just coughed and coughed and coughed for months. And so I ended up going to like a nutritionist, and they told me I needed to cut a bunch of foods out of my diet. And so I did, and I lost a whole bunch of weight, partly because I couldn't eat anything. They didn't have anything in the stores like they do now, like gluten-free and all of this free. But also I got way better. I started feeling way more energetic, and my cough went away. And so that was really the beginning of a journey, and it's been a rough road because in this culture, let's face it, you go to an event or something and you're looking at that gorgeous food staring at you, and it's hard for me. The doctor knows. It's hard for me, and he's always lecturing me. You gotta eat well. So it's just a constant path for me to try to eat well. And then, so when I was around 2013, I had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and I had chronic fatigue syndrome already going into that, and the fibromyalgia basically is a lot of muscle pain, and so it has gotten worse and worse, and I was at that point just really so bad, so run down that cleaning my kitchen was overwhelming to me. So I would be exhausted after that. I couldn't do much of anything the rest of the day. Then I met Dr. LaMastro. I had been through a whole bunch of medical everything before that, blood tests and you name it, and I was normal. And I was really sick of shots in the neck. I had tried so many supplements, just so many different kinds of remedies, medical, and nothing was helping. And Dr. LaMastro, I am really grateful to him because he uses this method, and I have it in my notes. He's a holistic practitioner, okay, and he uses a bioenergetic testing through acupuncture point readings to determine the energetic causes of the breakdown of various systems of the body. So his remedies then he uses toward whatever he finds is wrong, and they are primarily homeopathic. And so he brought me out of that slump really. And then really though, I continued to have a weak immune system. I kept getting sick all the time. My kids, thanks to the doctor, my body was balanced enough that my kids were born. And they actually started getting sick all the time when I'd go to the mothers of preschoolers group that I'm involved in. They were sick every month when I'd go. And then I'd get it, and I'd be sick for weeks. And I then ran into Juice Plus, which is a basically dehydrated food in really potent form that I started to take. And they send you free stuff for your kids, gummy stuff that they can chew. And we haven't been sick for more than a day since May, after being like sick the whole month of May, since taking that, and until now. Now I've had a cold, but I still have a little more energy. So I am very thankful for that and all of these different remedies that have come along. And so I wanted to share all of those facets of my health journey with you in the hopes that maybe it will help you, one or all of those things at some point. And I have a table back here that has also essential oils that Nancy brought, and she can always help you all with that later after the doctor's talk. Which also I use, and I'm actually diffusing some right now. Maybe you smell that. It's clove and cinnamon. Maybe that's what you're smelling in the air. I try to use completely pure essential oils, and I'll use it to like rub on the chest if I've got something like a cold in my chest or my throat, and it helps my fibromyalgia pain. So that's another aspect that you can maybe explore today. I have information about Juice Plus up here, and I think I just have one more thing. I'm gonna pass this around. You can fill it out at some point today. I'll just set it on your lap. Hopefully this will help you figure out where you want to go from here, and it will help me if you want me to send any more information along to you, or if the doctor has anything to send to you. So having said all of that, I will let the doctor take over.
Thank you very much. It was very nice. Of course, my name is Michael LaMastro. I'm a naturopath, and I've been helping people for 40 years of my life. And I'd rather enjoy it. It's not a job, it's a lifestyle that I try to live on a daily basis. And I always say, let food be your medicine, let medicine be your food. You know, I see everyone eating here. I've had a big breakfast, so you'll have to excuse me. I really can't eat anymore. And I really rather speak than eat, but I'm enjoying watching you all because you're nutrifying your body, all right? And that's very important. And why is it important? Because your body needs power. You can't function unless you have a good meal. And I espouse having at least 2 good meals a day, and that's what I follow, and that's good for me. Primarily, I start off with a protein breakfast, usually 2 to 3 eggs, some greens, could be broccoli rabe, could be raw spinach. But I look at 25 to 30% of protein in my life, and the protein is usually eggs, meat. I'm a carnivore, so I kind of go against the drift of becoming a vegetarian, which is not good for me. And one of the reasons for that, excuse me, is that when I have a patient, I look at their genetic predisposition. What part of the world are they from? Now, my families come from southern part of Europe, down by the heel of Italy. And those peoples have an indigenous type of foods staple items that they work with. They work with meat, fish, and they did some farming, greens. If I look at people from Denmark or Scandinavia, it's usually codfish. Some vegetables, but codfish and some potatoes. If we go over to Wales and Ireland, It's a little bit of meat and some potato. So that's one of the first things I look at when I'm doing an analysis is what part of the world are they from? And what foods identify with them? So that's what I want to get into now, what the best foods are. Now this works for me, and it may not work for you, but it will be difficult for me to think that it doesn't work for you because these foods that I'm about to mention are common foods to you, but they have a stimulation to the immune system of the body. Garlic, onions, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, olive oil, collard greens, cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts, and fish. Fish. You notice I didn't say meat. The reason why is because these selective foods stimulate NRF2. NRF2, did anyone ever hear about that before? NRF2 is part of your system. We were born with it, all right? We're made to the image and likeness of God, and because of that, we are virtually perfect. I know that's hard for you to believe because every time you turn on the TV, you're seeing them promoting a different pharmacologic drug. If you take this, it will help you here. However, if you start to bleed internally, if you start to have headaches, call your physician. Well, it's kind of a contradiction, isn't it? So I like foods because foods promote health, and they actually prevent disease processes if you're eating them properly, and that is cooking them. These foods I just mentioned, with the exception of garlic, of course I eat it raw, and onions I like to eat raw or cook. But when you cook any of the greens, you lightly steam them. You can have them raw, but you lightly steam them. The benefit there is when it's ingested, it's going to go into this cell. We have billions of cells in our body, and each cell contains a nucleus and a lot of other conductive nutrients that we need to function, for vision, for movement. All of our life functions come from foods. But these particular foods that I mentioned have a greater affinity for the NRF2. NRF2 are molecules, they're enzymes that were given to us by our Creator. And what they do is they increase antioxidant protection. So that if, for example, this is a schematic of our organ system, but I can identify it with you by saying, you know, your liver is in the upper right-hand quadrant of your body. Your pancreas is on the left quadrant of the body. And of course, your kidneys are behind your back. And sitting on top of those kidneys are your adrenal glands. Well, the NRF2 targets those organs. Now, how does it do that? It does that because I like you to think of a coupling mechanism. Let's take cauliflower, let's take broccoli. Broccoli is ingested, and because it has different chemicals, it attaches to an NRF2 component in the cell. And it helps to stimulate your ability to function. What do people mostly complain of now? Colds, flu, stomach weakness. The NRF2 searches out to different organ systems and actually boosts the immune system. Well, what's the immune system? I was sharing that earlier. The immune system starts at the thymus and the thyroid. Kidneys and gut and stomach. Gut and stomach, thymus, thyroid, kidneys, liver. Those are portal systems to your body. Nothing happens with health unless these systems work in harmony and synchronicity together. Now, you might say, oh, I knew that all the time, but thoughtfully, do you think of your liver livering? Do you think of your heart beating? Do you actually think of your kidney kidneying? Do you think of your gallbladdering? No, we don't. It's an automatic system. Remember I said we're made to the image and likeness of God. And all of those entities together, even though they're independent, they're interdependent and they're independent, but they function all together to help keep ourselves at a very high level of immunity. But if we miss a meal, the NRF2 may not work as well. If we don't eat, we can't power our adrenal glands. So foods are vital for that. Why do we eat? Do we live to eat or do we eat to live?
Eat to live. No.
I think that that's right. We eat to live. So when I go back to what I eat, big power breakfast, a couple of eggs, some greens, I might even have some turkey bacon. I'm getting my protein in the morning, 25 to 30% protein, 75% or 70% complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates are vegetables, fruits, and grains, but most of patients, I take the grains out. I take the grains out because fungi and yeast is present in those things. And most people come in with a fungi and yeast issue. And I have to help them to retrace and clean the body, rebuild the body with proper foods. But the reason we do that is, you see, we're in the center here. We're living in this environment, and this environment has a lot of toxins that we have to deal with on a daily basis. I'm going to be handing this out to you, and we'll do it now, but I'm just going to review it. We have physical toxins, which would be metabolic waste, free radicals, digestive waste, natural environmental pollutants, man-made pollutants, biological organisms. You know, when people take medications, they pollute the system. All right? So all of these areas here are toxic to our field. And what is our field? It's a magnetic biological field. You know, there's two philosophies. There's the Newtonian philosophy, and there's the Einsteinian philosophy. Pardon me. Einstein says there's a theory of relativity here. There's a magnetic field. Newton says what comes up goes down, and you're just muscle and bone and nothing else. But I practice with a magnetic field. I look at the body as a whole, not in different units like you may be used to. So when you go to a doctor, you have a complaint, and possibly, thank you, the first thing to be done would be to prescribe a medication. But what about the rest of the body? Shouldn't there be a consideration to that as well? So that's where all the organs of elimination come into play. I'm going to pick on the most famous complaint of all. Doctor, I'm very constipated. Oh, okay. Do you drink water? No, I don't drink water. I drink soda. Oh, well, did you know that water stimulates the liver and the gallbladder to produce bile? And bile is what makes the stool so that you're not going to be constipated. Let's do an experiment. You get up in the morning, let's drink about half a quart of water, and you'll see within a very short period of time, you're going to be able to avoid. So there's no reason for one to be constipated. And why is that dangerous? When you're constipated, you're building up a lot of toxins. You're building up poisons that don't get out of the body. It's wonderful. All of these things that you describe here, especially oils, especially the food sources, Rachel, that you describe, I think that's all good, because sometimes there's people who don't have time to eat a meal. That's not a good thing. But if you can't do that, then you have to go to a secondary adjunct or secondary protocol. Personally, we all have teeth, right? I love to chew my food. And chewing the food is part of healing the body. It's part of processing everything that you intake into the body. So, teeth are good. When I sit down and I have a meal, I chew about 35 to 40 times before I swallow my food. I break it down. By the time it goes down the esophageal area, it starts to work. You have an acid-alkaline base. It starts to break the food down. So you can't function unless you chew. You can't function unless you take water. That of in itself is the start of good health, but there are other variables as well. And the other variables go like this. I always say water first. Exercise. Why is exercise so important? We have a circulatory component. Blood has to travel. Blood is your soup. Blood is your soup. What do I mean by that? It picks everything up. And it works with liver and kidney. Every 24 hours, those two organs get married. They come together. And the liver is processing all the toxins that you've accumulated over the day or the week. Process it through the kidney. So what is it voiding? It's voiding ammonia. Free radicals have to get out. So when you have to get up in the evening and use the bathroom to void, do not think of that as such a negative thing, because you are unloading hydrogen ions, things that can be harmful to you. You know, when you go to bed, your body shuts down about 50%, and you're at rest, and you get up at 2, and oh, I don't want to go. We all say that to ourselves, but I want you to now think that you're unloading hydrogen ions, free radicals that can be deleterious to you as you carry on your work for the next day or the next week. So it's not necessarily a negative thing, it's a good thing. So we have water, but the exercise component for circulation also helps with breathing. Breathing. Inspiration, expiration. Why is that important? Anybody hear about hydrogen ions? Hydrogen ions are, again, toxins. There's antibiotics. There are things that make you feel tired, things that make you feel angry, things that affect your emotions. So when you exercise, or when you do any movement at all, I like to hike a lot, I like to ride my bike, I like to move around a lot, and I find when I do that, everybody's all right, I hope.
Daddy just came upstairs to get water and they're all crying because Opa's down there.
They didn't eat lunch, you know?
Oh, they didn't have lunch. Oh.
Movement keeps you young. Movement keeps circulation. Movement tones your muscles. It keeps you young. It keeps you vibrant. It keeps you happy. So we have water, we have exercise. The other component is rest. Rest. How many people could stay up all night for a week? I used to do that in medical school, and that's insane. All right? And the funny thing, my roommate used to do it as well, but he used to have a box of Entenmann's donuts to keep him up because he was a sugarholic. He was going to be a doctor. And it didn't work well for him. He ended up getting ill until he changed his diet. But those kinds of stresses in life, you have to be able to manage them. Manage them by exercise, by positive mental attitudes. Okay, so we have water, we have exercise, positive mental attitude, prayer. Keep your mind on the positive things of life. You know, there's such a thing as self-talk, so that's the other component that I practice, because you can find yourself getting into a negative rut.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell yourself, life is terrible. You can say, I feel terrible today. And the more that you do that to yourself, the deeper you dig the hole. So I always say to my patients, my young patients, in fact, Timmy is one of my patients, and I always try to up-talk to Timmy. Timmy, you look wonderful today. You got so tall. You look great. You're vibrant. Your hair is beautiful. And you know what? You speak so well. When I came through the door, you greeted me, and Dr. LaMastro, you remember my long name. What I'm trying to say is, there's a rule to life, and it goes round and round. It's a wheel. And how you feel is really how you treat other people. Are you loving? Are you kind? How can you be loving and kind if you're not kind to yourself first? So I like to always say to myself, I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. Thank you, God, for this day that I have to be with these wonderful people today, because we're all brothers and sisters here. We're all from the same place. And as I said earlier, it's been a wonderful journey for me because I get to help many people through my life. What I'm working for is a long, healthy life for myself. And I always believe you can talk it, the walk, but it's better to walk the walk. And walking the walk means you try to become an example for other people. And maybe not say too much. And I've learned that that was the best teacher to my children. I never thought they'd learn the rules of life. But recently, my children are in their 30s now, and we had a family reunion a couple of days ago. I got a new granddaughter. It changed my life. And my children said to me, Dad, you were right. Right about what? Everything, Dad. So, you know, it's nice for a parent to see how your children grow and take on some of the philosophies and some of the actions of your life. And that's the key. But the key is to always keep in your mind good self-talk. Don't allow yourself to be taken down by negative talk. TV, you know, there's a lot of negativity on TV and radio. So we want to try to keep that to an absolute minimum in our life. That's part of our health as well. It's just as important as foods. It's just as important as exercise. Prayer on a daily basis, giving thanks, realizing who and what you are. And of course, rest. You've got to have that sleep. If you don't have sleep, you won't be able to function in your various capacities of life. And again, I go back to this chart, which I'm going to give you, sources of toxic disturbances. At the top of the list are mental emotional toxins, disease-forming belief systems, emotional physical traumas, negative hurtful subconscious, learned negative patterns. A lot of those things we can overcome. We overcome it by prayer. We overcome it by thinking about our actions. While we're eating food, we're chewing. My children would say, Dad, you spend a lot of time at the table. So a traditional dinner for me would be about an hour. So in the mornings when I get up, I sit down and my wife prepares a nice breakfast for me. I'm there for about an hour, and then I go to my office to see patients. And you know what? I feel tremendous when I'm able to do that. I'm able to give of myself. Now, sometimes patients come in and they're not feeling well for whatever reason. Maybe they traveled, they went to Europe and they didn't get enough of sleep, or they were outdoors working and they had contacted cold or flu. So there's another side of what I do besides endorsing all the things I've just told you. And it comes with the different types of remedies, homeopathic remedies, herbal remedies. So I'm just going to give you a few things today that I've used that are very powerful. They're called adaptogens. And they've saved my life many times, because many times I would be out in speaking engagements. So I'd have to travel to California or Rhode Island. And it was hard to get rest. I was in hotels. I always had my plethora of different remedies. Things I used were ashwagandha, echinacea, cat's claw, and garlic, believe it or not. But another